Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. In textbooks, he looks like a frozen marble statue in a powdered wig, a symbol of ideal classics, harmony, and calm. But let's shatter this marble. The real man was the complete opposite of his music. This is the story of Europe's first true rock star, a man who earned millions and died in poverty, a man who wrote divine masses on a billiard table. He missed every deadline imaginable and lived at such a furious speed that his heart simply couldn't take it. The unquiet mind. He was a bundle of uncontrolled nervous energy. He likely had Tourette syndrome or severe ADHD. He physically couldn't sit still. At social gatherings, he might suddenly jump up, start meowing, or jumping over chairs. His hands were constantly fidgeting, his feet tapping a rhythm. He seemed like a madman until he touched the keys. Even now, sitting at the table, he continues to nervously drum his fingers on the surface, as if the music inside is causing him physical pain. This hyperactivity had a price. He was burning himself out from the inside. He worked 18 hours a day, not because he had to, but because he couldn't stop. His brain was a radio that couldn't be turned off, and the only way to drown out the noise was to translate it into music. The Vatican hack. At 14, he committed the theft of the century. In the Vatican, once a year, they performed Allegri's Miserere. These notes were a state secret of the Pope. Taking them out or copying them was forbidden under penalty of excommunication. Mozart listened to the piece once. Coming home, he didn't sleep. He lit a candle, dipped his quill in ink, and froze over a blank sheet, preparing to steal the Vatican's main secret. He wrote down the complex score without a single error. It's like hacking a complex code just by looking at the screen. When the Pope found out, he was so shocked by the brazen genius that instead of prison, he awarded him a medal. Mozart proved that for talent, there are no forbidden zones. The Billiard Maniac. Where did his huge fees disappear? Mozart was an obsessive gambler. In his apartment, amidst mountains of scribbled paper, stood an expensive billiard table. He played all night long, often with professional card sharps. For him, the click of the balls was as important as the sound of an orchestra. He leans over the green cloth, aiming his cue. With the same serious face he used to conduct an opera, he lost entire fortunes in a single evening. Gambling was his fuel. He needed the sense of risk, walking on the edge of the abyss to feel alive. As a result, earning more than any minister, he constantly borrowed money from friends just to win it back. The deadline god. Procrastination is not an invention of our century. Mozart was the king of missing deadlines. He wrote the overture to Don Giovanni the night before the premiere. Tomorrow is the show, and there are no notes. He sat at the table, drunk with fatigue, while his wife poured him punch so he wouldn't pass out right on the score. He takes a sip from the glass, trying to force his tired brain to outrun time. In the morning, copyists snatched sheets from him where the ink hadn't dried yet. The orchestra played from sight, never having rehearsed. It was pure madness, but it was in this stress that masterpieces were born. Requiem for a bird. He was strange even in his affections. Once he bought a starling that learned to whistle his melody. The bird lived with him for 3 years. When the starling died, Mozart, who ignored his father's funeral, held a ceremony. He stands in the garden before a small, fresh grave, holding an empty cage. He read poems over the bird's grave. It wasn't a joke. It seems in this little creature, he saw the only friend who loved him, not for fame or money. This highlighted the total loneliness of the genius amidst a crowd of people. The broke millionaire. He was in the top 5 richest people in Vienna, but always walked with empty pockets. He had beautiful life syndrome, expensive apartments, servants, silver shoe buckles. He bought unnecessary luxury, trying to fill the inner void. He examines his new expensive camisole, ignoring the stack of unpaid bills on the table. As soon as money appeared, he threw a feast for the whole city. And a week later, he wrote humiliating letters begging to borrow a few coins. It wasn't poverty. It was the slow financial suit of a man who didn't think about tomorrow. The nameless finale. The finale of the tragedy. At 35, his body failed. Kidneys, exhaustion, fever. He lay in a dark room, convinced that envious rivals had poisoned him, though his own rhythm of life killed him. There was no money left, even for an undertaker. He sits in the semi-darkness, looking at a dying candle, realizing the music is over. No one followed the coffin of the greatest genius. His body was wrapped in a sack and dumped in a common pit for vagrants, sprinkled with lime. The burial place is lost forever. Mozart dissolved into eternity, leaving us music, but not even leaving a stone with his name. The cost of eternity. He created 600 masterpieces in 35 years. If you count, he would have had to just write notes around the clock without sleep or food. He burned himself out like a firework. The world received his symphonies, but lost the man who was simply thrown away like trash. Mozart left, leaving us with a question. Is eternity worth such a price, or is it better to live a long life, but with your own grave?